everybody,
Thank you.
and have a great meeting. I'll come down and
Thanks.
check in afterwards.
Thank you.
And just watch your step over here. There's a lot of cables going.
Thanks for your help. Absolutely.
So I'm going to call the November meeting for the Parks and Conservation Land Board to order. Because we're on video, can you state your full name for the attendance?
Oh, sorry, Sue Fullyford.
Jessica Sargent?
Maggie Bishno.
Rick Murphy.
Noah Perlet.
Rachel Hendrickson.
Doug Williams.
Karen Shute, council liaison.
Great. So I think we need to make an amendment to the approval of the minutes because it's not just the September 12th meeting, but I believe the July meeting, which the minutes did go in your packet, and then potentially the June minutes, even though they're already public on the website. It looks like that was, we didn't have a quorum at for the June minutes.
So I
So,
move to add those items to the agenda under number 3.
Second.
all in favor?
And then I move to approve all.
Second.
Do we have discussion after that?
What's that?
Yeah,
Discussion.
discuss the motion, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
So I seconded. So now any corrections?
Any discussions, additions, corrections?
I forget which one it is. Can I look at all three of them? I'd have to go in and look at them, unfortunately. But I
Oh,
can.
right.
But the one, I believe it's the Alger
Elder Hall.
Hall one, says that, I think, the amount they were paying was $33 million.
It was
It was a
mistake
decimal point and
Oh,
a
there was a
comma in the
typo.
wrong place.
Okay.
So it's not the correct amount.
Ooh, that's pretty
I
important.
think the numbers are correct, but I
didn't
think
print
a
it
zero
out.
was added. It's pretty nasty.
That would simply.
Oh, 3-9, yeah, I see it, 3-9.
That would just be considered a clerical change
Well, that's fine.
and can be made once it's brought up.
Just
They
eliminate one of the
shouldn't be,
nines.
they shouldn't be approved at that number.
Just remove one of the nines, right?
I don't remember
Here it is.
I don't remember the actual number.
You can see it.
I thought the numbers were correct and that there was a zero. I thought it was 399.97 maybe. We'd have to verify. I think there's an
So,
extra zero actually.
Yeah.
the number is, so as part of the packet, we did include the amount, as part of your November package, you received the land bond balance sheet. And so in the land bond balance sheet, the correct number is included, which would be $399,970.
So there was a clerk or added a zero at the end and that automatically moved the comma.
So,
It's an extra 9 there.
Oh, extra zero in that.
yeah, it's an extra 9.
There's copies of the finance sheet that I got in your
Yeah.
packet.
So do we have to make a motion to accept the minutes with that,
Yeah. With that amendment?
fixing that clerk error?
I'll second Doug's motion.
Just so you can see it. So, in what month was that?
That was the September 12th.
The September 12th minutes. So what, I think we have to do them separately.
Under 7, okay, so
So that's-
I'll amend my original motion just to approve, September 12th minutes with the change under 7B II to $399,970.
Second.
All in favor?
And then I make a motion to the other, for June and July 2024 minutes to approve, motion to approve. Sorry.
All in favor? Oh, sorry, discussion? All in favor?
Hold on. Is it June or is it May?
May,
June and
why
July.
is May unapproved also?
June and July did we not approve May?
Was May tabled also? I just went back to
Maybe
June.
not, sorry. Maybe, sorry, I don't mean to sow confusion. Let's just go with the motion.
June and July minutes accepted. September accepted with the clerical error, the typo fixed. Okay. Go, Todd, is there any way we could get the agenda on the screen, or do you have paper copies?
I have copies.
Just so folks can see it.
Sorry for being late.
Because we're
Today your
gonna,
last day, Todd?
Next Friday.
Oh, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you.
because this is the public portion,
Oh, I don't need that.
public
You guys
comments
need-
portion.
Anybody want to say that?
I like to write on it.
So do I, that's why
I
I.
like to write on this.
I
So
did it sometime.
we are now in the public comments portion of the meeting. Public.
Just two quick things. I do want to point out that Scarborough Land Trust has a sustainable landscaping and integrated pest management program, November 9th at 6 p.m. in the Public Safety Building. It's a free program. It's being done by Gary Fish, the state horticulturist. So if you're interested, you can sign up on our website.
You said November 9th.
19th. And the second thing I just want to mention is I want to throw our thanks to Todd Souza for everything he's done for the town. It was a pleasure working with Todd over the last couple of years. And he will be missed.
Thank you.
And good luck in your new position. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Are there any other public comments? I don't see any online. So yeah, now we just move right into celebrating Todd.
Now you declare public comments over.
I declare public comments over. Thank you.
It's the experience on the planning board, it's okay.
So I also wanted to share my appreciation for Todd. Please take some donuts and some cookies.
This is breakfast. I whipped a coffee from Wiscasset Ford on the way down here, and they messed up my truck, so I apologize for being late. They drove it in, and I should have been leaving about 8:30, and there was oil dripping out of the bottom of it, so I'm like it's going back. So anyways, not pretty. I appreciate it. I love what we do.
Thank you for all your work.
Oh, it's fun.
So, yeah, we understand you're coming back just for this committee consistently.
Well, and I hate to break the bad news, but someone else is gonna have to keep bad minutes, so.
That's all right. That's better than so bad.
Something that.
Yeah, it truly has been a change for people that have been participating in this process since its inception to have a liaison. It's been incredible. So that's the council and Todd, thank you very
Yeah,
much
sure.
for that.
I've learned a lot and I've enjoyed it, so thank you guys.
You can bring a lot to your position now up there, right?
And all that detail work is just so important. And it's really the backbone of things getting done.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Well, I would like to echo that as well. I would like to echo my thoughts as well, Sue's thoughts and everybody's thoughts. It has been very, very helpful to have Todd on board, and I know him from another committee as well. And his dedication is just incredible, and he's put in some very, very long hours. It's a big loss for Scarborough, but good for Union and good for Todd. It's a good move, but we're gonna miss you, Todd. Thank you.
Does this mean a big drive for you?
This is, I will have 7 of my years here, I was in Wiscasset, so it was an hour, which wasn't bad. But recently in May, we moved to Cushing, so it's been an hour and 45, hour and 50 since May, so.
And this is gonna be closer?
18 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Not that he's counting.
600 miles a week I'll be saving on my truck, so.
You have a gift of time.
And life is short, and so, yeah, absolutely. Yes. All the time back.
So Todd, my husband has a cousin, Todd, who is building a house in Union on the lake.
Okay.
And he works for Bloomberg in New York City, but his wife's family is all from Camden area. So you might see me up there
There
sometime.
you go.
Watch out.
For Blueberry Fest and Union Fair, I'm sure we.
Sounds like a warning, but.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a great cheese place up there that has, well, it's actually, I don't know, it's a specialty shop that has these mustards. It's famous for its mustard. And I got one and I'm almost gone. It's almost gone now. And I'm thinking, oh, I gotta get back up there.
You're gonna see her soon.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Is Union the town that's having all of the drama with the corridor widening?
No.
The what? The cordwood?
The
Oh,
corridor, the CMP corridor widening.
Oh, no, that's probably further in Dexter.
Yeah, we're just
Those
west
are
of
Kids
Camden.
Unity.
Yeah.
Just west of Camden.
I'm just having to look up where it is. And so it's.
She's getting directions to your place.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Town hall.
Yeah, we're closed on Fridays, so.
Oh, what a great area.
No, Union.
Union.
Union Fairs though.
But the Union Fair.
Union Fairs, yeah. Blueberry Festival. Yeah, a lot of good things going on, and they're there for a small community, very progressive in the sense of resiliency and energy efficiency. They've made a lot of those strides when they just built a new public works building that's totally solar and meeting that site on resiliency and working on different pieces. So they're very thoughtful in that sense. So it's a lot like here on a smaller scale. So it's exciting.
Well, we can afford to do some stuff, people from Bloomberg and building houses.
Yeah, there's 5 bodies of water in Union. So,
Is there 5?
yeah,
Wow.
2 completely and 3 that are shared with Hampton Open, Washington. So it's great.
Looks lovely.
Yeah, it's great hotel. I'm excited.
Well, I don't want to close the celebration, but I would like to move on to the land bond passing, and there is another typo, it's my fault. It was 62.5%, I believe, was the passage rate for the $6 million land bond.
You know, that percentage doesn't include people who didn't.
But it does not include blanks.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought.
That's excluding blanks.
Blanks.
Which drop-off rate being the third question is not uncommon to have blanks and you're on the other side of you had to flip the ballot.
It's just great. It's just great. And I want to congratulate all of you all. I had like virtually nothing to do with all of the data mining and work together, and you all did an amazing job. And you should feel really, really proud of yourselves for making a difference in this town.
Yay.
So
Did
congrats.
you guys see all my videos? Did you see the videos online?
Did you see Sue's videos online?
Did you see the Halloween one? That's one I liked the
I'm
best.
sure.
It's not the best one.
I like that one. I don't know, maybe I just like Halloween.
You like it because it's shaking.
I know. Ooh, I like it because I went to the graveyard.
But I'd like to say, I'm very pleased. I was extremely worried because I had canvassers out for other campaigns. And they were coming back with the concerns that were being expressed, especially by seniors, that private donations should take care of all of the purchases. And that they thought that their taxes were gonna go up tremendously. That was being fed by the folks who were voting, were looking at no. So, as we go on with this, it's gonna be a couple of years at least before we have to go back, but just keep that in mind, that there is a strong concern about the taxes and some misunderstanding about how much a couple of things, how much the land trust does in terms of getting money that's not the town, so how much is being leveraged? And a lack of understanding, I think, that when the land trust takes on the land, they're taking it on in perpetuity. In other words, you can't, it's very difficult to predict how much it's gonna cost to maintain the trailheads 15 years from now, or 20 years from now, but they've agreed to do that. They've agreed to take that on, so that the money up front is, and the money that comes from the town up front is kind of a drop in the bucket to what it ultimately costs to hold this land and to take care of this land in perpetuity. So I think just keep that in the back of your minds in terms of additional campaigns if anybody is going to go forward with it. In other words, I think it was important maybe to emphasize a little more than was done, that it was gonna be $21 a year, you know, when everything was done
Yeah.
in terms of taxes. People just simply did not understand, and I was getting an awful lot of reports back from the folks that I had at the doors.
So it really, to me, it really speaks to some educational efforts. that
Yeah,
need to happen, and I think in an ongoing way, not just, there's a big campaign and then we're done for 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's, and the by the numbers is a, if we can keep that going.
It's a really good start. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
really good way. It's clear, it's very visual. It's something that people take a look at fast, but they can see the results there. But there is some education, some constant education, I think, that's gonna be needed.
Yeah, and actually, I just want to make this comment just for the counselors' sake. If I'm not on this committee, which will happen. There has been a push sometimes at the council level to make your quick pitch. You know, they can get the developer up there and they'll spend 45 minutes talking about whatever. But I've been told, you know, by the manager, you know, can you make this, you know, a 2-minute pitch or whatever. And I pretty much have really bucked it. And I've said, no, actually, I have a PowerPoint and I want to show it. And part of it is that educational piece, because when people that are involved in government or the public, members of the public who watch these things or go to the meetings, I mean, they don't know what the heck it is. It drives me crazy when I go to a meeting and I don't even know, I see the agenda item, but I don't know a little bit about the background of the whole thing.
But I think what that means is if the only time people hear about it is when we go to the town council and ask for money, then, yeah, they don't.
I'm not necessarily saying that, but I'm saying hold on to that piece.
Yeah, and I'm saying we might want as a committee to consider some more formal and specific education ongoing, not just when we want money.
I agree.
I think that's a great idea. Does this group have some suggestions for things we could start to work on in 2025? So for example, I think we should update the by the numbers annually. So it's always up to date. It's not like we set that down for the next 5 years. So for example, by the numbers, updating it annually. Do we need any other materials? We have 3 new town councilors. So there's voter education, and there's resident education, and there's council education, because we have 3 new councilors also.
Well, Bill Donovan's.
I was gonna say 2.5, because Bill's.
Yeah. He's kind of.
We need transition things for people on this committee and people in council or any other committee for that matter. What's the process? What's happening? What has happened? It doesn't have to be a book, but we need transition capability.
Well, we're gonna have a new staff liaison, and I'm not putting Todd on the spot here, but this isn't simple, this isn't easy. what do we need to put together so that they know what in the world we're talking
Yeah,
about?
I mean, it's way better than it was, just because of just your unity and philosophy and I think that, you know, what you're talking about is exactly what you should be doing. I would take it one step further and, you know, I would set an annual timeline, like, I agree, numbers annually, but completed in, you know, launched February 1st. So when people see the numbers, it's all at the same time, you know, it's the same period of time versus this year we do it in March, next year we do it in December. Like, have a consistent rollout so it can be part of your work plan. And then the same thing with marketing is that this is complicated, and when you mix in politics, it's even harder. So I think anything you guys can do to spoon feed the public and bring council along with you is just, you know, whether that's a quarterly email from the chair or something just says, hey, we reviewed 3, just something to keep a living. Yeah, we all have it on the video and in minutes, but if somebody just wants to read the coffee table version of it, and if a new council comes on board, you can say, hey, here's the last year of just notes. It's because there's so much to go through, you know, sure the councilors are picking up all kinds of committees and just drinking through a fire hose for a while. So if you think they're absorbing everything, no offense, they're taking a fraction of it because you know it. And when we have public meetings and it's just, we give them too much information, curtains come down and they're trying to pick the pieces that they understand. It's a lot. So spoon feeding is important, and I like the idea of educating all the time, just when you need to. So,
Karen, can I ask you a question about, does the town council have a document that is sort of basically a summarized percentage of, okay, Karen, here's your taxes, and this percent of your taxes this year goes to school bonds, this percent goes to fire trucks, and this percent goes to conservation land. Is that a thing that exists?
Todd might be able to answer that better. I mean, I think we
I know they do it by department.
I was gonna say by department, we
It's
have
a
it
moving
broken
target.
down.
It's a moving target. And it's a function of when the bond actually get issued. So when the finance department does it, they do a essentially forecast.
It's a moving target, but
It's a guess.
it's a moving target amongst fiscal years. It's not a moving target within a year. So you should be, that number for each fiscal
For a
year
given year.
is a fixed effect, because we have a budget, you spend the budget, period, right?
But what's the tax rate gonna be next year?
I know.
When that bond is issued?
Well,
Right.
at each tax season, yeah, each
Are you
tax
talking about
period.
dollars or tax related?
Well, so for example,
What's the marginal tax rate?
I think it would be,
What's the state funding gonna be? You know, what are the huge number of variables going to be as we go on? I'm not saying it shouldn't be done, and I know they do forecasts. It's just a really complicated thing, but they do forecasts.
Well, some towns do it right on their tax bills. We just do separate school.
But the towns usually just do county, school, local, you know, those kind of 3.
You guys do, but I think other places add public safety, like they separate it a little bit more
Oh, if they're
detailed.
doing a warrant, maybe.
I guess my point is that if you look at the Hurlet taxes for last year, I don't know what the total percentage is for, because I'm probably still paying land bonds from 2005, right? Still paying taxes on land bonds from whatever, I don't know. But I would suspect that percentage of my taxes for land bonds is almost invisible compared to most town services. And I think when you're really looking at like the focus of things, that like sort of a helpful context of what you're truly paying for
Right,
in an annualized basis.
right.
But maybe that's just too complicated an idea, and I
No,
appreciate
but
that.
just like a pie chart, you take that tiny 0.0001%, you say, hey, land bonds, that's it right there.
That's what you're
So
true-
we
really
did
Yeah.
we had a workshop at the council, not sure if you attended or not, where we were sitting next to the finance director. And that question was asked from the council, and he used the word minuscule.
Yeah.
Minuscule is the word he used, so I tried to use that as much as possible.
Yeah, but I mean, so, is it,
Visually, with visually.
right, sure, I mean, if it's less than half of 1%,
It is.
right? That's of your annual taxes. I think that's a helpful context.
Yeah.
For that people can understand, like the general population can understand, because I understand the concern, particularly of seniors on fixed context. I'd be like, yeah, increasing my taxes by $500 a year is a big blow. I get it. And so let me think about this like in a structured way, right? But maybe it's too complicated from an accounting perspective.
No, I think you could break it down to the extent to emphasize how little the impact really is. I mean, when you think about how much our debt is of our budget, debt payments is of our budget anyways, and then it's just a sliver of that within that.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a good point.
We can talk about this, in the
Right.
future. Yeah, but just want to bring that up.
Speaking of numbers, another valuable number, we totally know that's a good thing to think about. So a lot of it comes down to staff time, because of the number, the amount of work that goes into generating that kind of thing, and all the different situations for individuals. So we want it to be applicable across all. So it's complicated. But the other one is the cost of development. It's whether the taxes you're paying are covering the costs that you incur. Okay? And we have old numbers. Well, it's really time to update that and understand. Maybe it's totally changed around. We'd really like to build more single-family houses because they are generating, because they're selling for so much money now that they're generating more than they actually use in service. I honestly don't know. Because that was 20 years ago. That's a number that we should understand. We should understand it for commercial development as well as, and I say commercial development, we should understand it for big box retail as well as other types of commercial, because we're attracting big box retail, and that's going to continue. So,
Karen, is there any fiscal impact analysis associated with the revaluation of impact fees? Or of impact fees, the recreation impact fee, the transportation impact fee, is anyone doing this, or this would be a separate ask to town council to do a fiscal impact analysis of what does it cost, what is development? What do different land use types, so open space, residential development, commercial development?
Kind of like the cost that it brings to the town.
Like, what does it bring in tax revenue, and what does it cost in services?
Right, yeah, I mean, if you recall, I did ask staff that, but yeah.
well,
Something they were unable to regenerate the report that they had already, so you gave me that report from 2000, and I went to staff, said, not Todd, and I said, can we get this? And they were like,
Well, that was an outside consultant.
they can't do it.
They can't do it internally. They've got to
They have
have
to
it
have access.
outside.
I
You
think
have to have access to national level
Sedco has
rates.
numbers, and we were hoping to get
Yeah.
something generated out of them, but it just kind of never came to fruition in a way. Because there's just so many factors. So that would be a consultant.
Yeah, it really has to do professionals, really. I don't know.
Well, we could consider fundraising for a consultant to do this. That's not out of the question either. So, because it's going to be a couple of $300,000.
You think it's gonna be that much?
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was only like 30 or 60 last
21
time.
years ago.
21 years ago. Well, you're multiplying
In
that by
a smaller
12.
town with
You think it's
less stuff going on.
$100,000?
I think
Really?
it's time.
Wow.
It's staff
Oh, yeah.
time. They don't, a lot of the stuff is it's just
Well, I know they met
spending
with,
time going out at this.
they met with each staff department chair and got pulled numbers, and then they did,
Just
yeah.
the national level numbers.
Yeah,
And then you have to take the national level numbers, but you have to modify them so they're appropriate for Scarborough. Make sure you're looking at the right sort of national level. It's complicated, and it's very doable, and it's worth looking at. And maybe I'm way too high on the numbers. It's just that, you almost can't believe what this costs these days, right? So, but it's worth looking at anyway.
I was just hoping we could bundle it with other efforts so that it didn't fall to conservation, but sorry.
I wanted to ask Land Trust if you all had anything you wanted to add to this conversation about things that you were hearing from constituents that were I guess effectively, pieces of information that would have helped in people thinking about, yes, I want to support this, or no, missing pieces of information or anything like that that you're hearing from constituents.
We heard from a lot of people that they were strongly in support of the land bond. So that was good. We also heard, especially, this is not scientifically proven, but if I had to make an assumption, newer residents, meaning in the last 3 years, did not know what the land bond was at all. And so that's a potential education piece. Talking to people at farmers markets or wherever we were, a lot of new residents just, oh, what's that?
Let me suggest that one thing that you might want to take a look at is a thank you message to the citizens of the town, into the leader, something like that, that includes some of the information that folks might have been uncertain about when they looked at it. So if they were uncertain if it's, in that document might be, a land bond is, and then the definition, what it does, and then how the land is conserved. And don't get terribly involved in numbers, in finances or anything else, but get involved in that article in the value of what a land bond does and the value of conservation of land. And then as people start really understanding that, then 6 million looks pretty cheap. So that may start it off.
Wait,
That's a
should
good
that
idea.
come from the yes committee?
It should come from this committee.
This committee, the PCLB.
Yeah. But the town communications person should be able to get it into the leader, but however we would like it to go out. But it's time, I think it's time to thank the citizens. So thank the folks who vote and provide the folks who didn't vote for it an understanding of what's gonna happen, what it means.
I think we should also invite applications.
What's
Sorry,
that?
guys,
What?
We should also
Guys,
invite
can we-
applications.
Guys, I think Andrew was still talking. Did you still have other things you were doing, or is it, okay, it seemed like you were sort of in mid-sentence, okay, sorry.
So I walked door to door and talked to some people, and I did 3 different neighborhoods. And the one thing that when people were concerned, I will say, is that it wasn't so much, it was the process, that there was some process questions and trust in the town, and then, trust in, and sort of the language being too vague in terms of recreation. And at the same time, and I'll bring this up now, there was concern that this money would be used for the community center, which is, was quoted, I don't know, is it, how many millions of dollars is that? So they just thought it was going to be contributed. And I heard that from at least 3 people in the conversations. All I could tell them is what our process has been in the past, and yes, there is language there, but that's what was the intent, it wasn't the intent, and here's what we do as our process. But, so the clarity of the language or specificity, but we had that conversation before the whole, so.
Where did that come from?
It was the original, and I think what was end up decided was that since we had one bond like this, we would do all of them exactly the same. There was hardly any change in the wording.
No, I mean the idea that it would go towards the community center.
Because the language of the bond
said
says
recreation.
recreation.
Active and passive.
It says active and passive, and
Oh,
if,
okay.
and I don't know if you guys remember this, but I was pushing to take out the active part of it, But I wasn't thinking of active, like, okay, so active can be snowmobiling, active can be hiking, active can be, but I think what people are thinking is like sports, like our sports field, does it mean we can get a new soccer field? And I think people really think that the town could do that, and.
Well, they could.
Well, and
Okay.
let's face it, I think under the language of the mandate of this committee, I think the town could purchase the land for a community center. Now, not build the community center, but purchase the land. And I think that's likely to be considered a legitimate expense. But nobody's, that I've heard has brought it up.
So related to that, and one of the
I think it's a possibility,
I'm not saying
given
you're
our
wrong,
language.
I'm just sitting here saying no.
No, I think Rachel's right. I think some of us counselors interpret the language that you could use that land bond money to purchase land for a community center, correct?
So related to that, our current evaluation process is focused on traditional conservation. For traditional conservation, meaning, wildlife habitat protection, drinking water protection, that sort of thing. I think that this group in 2025, and that's what I was thinking with areas of improvement, I think we need to expand our evaluation criteria to all of the purposes included in the language in the
Like the
law.
historic-
Like say historic preservation. I think that we need to have an evaluation process as a board for historic preservation applications. And so what I would like to see is that we come up with companion criteria for the purposes as included in the bond language. I know that the conservation evaluation criteria took about a year, but it's no reason not to start. Because I think all applications should come through this board, and they can't come through this board if we don't have a process for evaluating them. I'm not saying I have any special skills or knowledge as it relates to historic conservation, but if we need those skills, then we need to get them as a board.
But that may just be part of your criteria or your thing. You may just identify people that have those skills,
Yes.
get an evaluation from, check off from, if you were talking historically.
Yeah, and I was thinking, Todd, does your department have an evaluation process for the purchase of land for active recreation?
We don't have a process. We have our master plan that identifies what we need, but not so much a process to say.
To evaluate it,
We
evaluate a purchase of.
We would just evaluate it based on the criteria need to put the resource there. So if you said you were putting a soccer field, we would say we need 3 acres, 2 acres for a field and an acre for parking. And then, but again, you've got to be associated, is it shared water and sewer? Like what are the other parts and pieces of it? So it would depend on the resource you were trying to put there. If you were trying to put Memorial Park, or were you trying to put a passive park that just had pavilions and it was a place just to go and passively recreate, so that's a big question in a sense, depending on what the land, my view on the land bond is I think that it could be used for active and passive recreation, but having this board to be able to weigh in on it, and that's why I like Jessica's idea of having companion criteria, as well as it's got to go through the whole public process with the town. The nice thing about having broad language, as much as it seems scary, you have a good process before the funds go anywhere. You have public process in there. I think we have the companion criteria that dials it down even more to make it harder to do something that wasn't appropriate, but, the language the way it is also provides you for the reason to not do something, choose the word sleight of hand, where we're gonna buy, Andrew and I look at a piece of property and Andrew's gonna say, oh, it's 60% conservation when they get the whole thing. And then after we buy it, I'm gonna put a soccer field there. this allows us to have that conversation, for us to jointly come to you and say, hey, we found a parcel, it's 20 acres, we're looking for 5 for active recreation, 10 is gonna go into, true conservation, and 5 is.
Farms. Yeah,
Yes, so that's why that language is as broad as in the bond, because we didn't, you have to change it all the time. Your process really dictates what the use is, and your criteria evaluation is important, so that's why I didn't,
Well, that's why I was wondering if there's a criteria that we could use for something like the purchase of land for a community center or a soccer field. Not, in other words, not just for historical property, and I think we need that, but if there's an area around, if we're moving beyond traditional conservation as we thought about it, what criteria do we need that we don't have, and who might have guidance
Yes.
and models that we can take a look at?
and I'm totally making up this example right now, but a lot of the conversations and a lot of the groups is obviously, first and foremost, protecting the marsh, our identity in the marsh is associated with it. What if a piece of property with a factory came on that was for sale? And you wanted that land so you didn't have another factory and you could clean that space up. Those are the type of scenarios that you're gonna be dialing down to as properties become less available. And when those opportunities arise, I think that's the kind of thought process you guys need to have, so you're prepared to answer a question or react to an opportunity when something pops up to say, hey,
It means it's within our purview or it's not.
it either is or is not, but when those type of parcels come up, whether it comes from land trust or a citizen or anybody to use these funds, I think you're gonna see more unique parcels starting to be asked about. It should be considered because there's not a lot left, and you can change the use of something to make it better.
And no one thinks about this more than us, So it's not like someone else is gonna magically do this. I do think we as a board need to focus on that. And in concert with that is that the new open space plan is gonna come out. I don't know how many non-traditional conservation uses might be included in that open space plan. I don't know. You're gonna get Maggie and Doug are on the open space ad hoc.
Tuesday, we get a draft.
Yeah, so we'll know more
Next
on Tuesday. But making sure we incorporate the findings from the open space plan and expand into all of the purposes included in the land law.
And I did ask, Jamie called me yesterday, and they haven't pushed it out yet, but they have created a scorecard in that open space plan.
Oh.
And so, we'll see that on Tuesday too. But brief conversation with Jamie was, once the members see it and get feedback on it, then this committee should have the opportunity to weigh in on it, to see how it parallels, to make sure, again, they're putting something together without approving all the data and research yet, so they kind of got to go hand in hand at that point. But I made sure I mentioned to her yesterday that this group should see that as, you discuss how you're going to tweak or alternate or add companion pieces to your evaluation process.
So I think there'll be the open space plan, the recreation master plan. There are going to be a few different existing pieces that we need to incorporate into those companion evaluation tools.
So if Doug, as a citizen, wants to encourage the town to buy his neighbor's parcel for conservation, how does he do that?
Is his neighbor willing?
So that has come up before.
I can't bring it.
It doesn't come to this.
No,
Building itself.
it doesn't come to this committee anyway. Town council,
Okay, so for example, this plot of land that I know is going up for sale, I went to town hall and was like, can you go talk to that landowner? I mean, that's the scenario that I imagine.
Okay.
Is you would go to the town manager.
We would do it as a town.
And have him initiate conversation.
so
Literally done that.
the citizen goes to town hall is the
That
answer.
would be my, I mean, you can always come to a town councilor, but I mean, we also do turnover. And so I turned to him going, what's the best way to approach this situation?
And in the past, we have also referred them to the
I
Scarborough
have
Land
also
Trust.
done the same with the Scarborough Land Trust, yeah.
Right,
there's no
but
reason that they couldn't come to us and present us with
Right.
what I mean, an individual that, at least in the previous.
Well, you can't say, I want you to buy my neighbor's property.
No,
Yeah.
no, we would not be buying it, but yeah, we would have to coordinate, yeah, right, exactly. But I mean,
Or
they,
they could come to this committee.
Sorry.
and
That's what I'm
ask
saying.
you to go to Tom.
I didn't mean to get bogged down on
Yeah.
if it's this committee member in here that wants the town. I just mean any citizen that wants the town to buy a parcel of land for conservation, not the land trust.
they could
For
come
whatever
here,
reason.
and then we could go to town, or we
But
could go
we-
to our
But
counselors.
we don't vet,
Right.
we don't vet expenditures on the land bond that the town makes. The town just makes them without this committee's review and oversight. So that's my question. I don't,
That
Well, I
actually
think-
has only
I
happened
think we-
twice.
And I
but it
think,
happened, right?
It does happen. It's the prerogative of the council to bypass the committee. But it doesn't typically happen. Most of them come through us for an evaluation. And that's because we're essentially stewards of the bond trust money. That doesn't mean the council can't just say, hey, we want this. It's a historic preservation. One of them was Doug, so you're gonna have to help me out. One was for Alger.
Alger's Hall, and then
The other one they went
The Arch.
direct on.
the
What?
Beechridge Schoolhouse,
And the Danish.
and the
Arch.
Danish Arch.
And there were three of them.
Yep,
So they have the ability to do that, but typically they don't. Typically, we take the application and vet it. And remember, our function here is stewardship. So it's probably not wise for the town council to say, hey, I want to take $6 million and use it for something else. And I'm on another committee, and we very much would like to build a swimming pool or community center, but not out of this money. It's a different pool of money, and it's strategically dumb to get this pool of money and then spend it for something else that wasn't envisioned by the people, the 6,000,
yeah, I guess,
9,000 people that
I'm not
voted.
asking, but I'm not asking about the community center. Like, I'm asking about conservation land.
Yeah.
And that a citizen sees something, an opportunity for the town. That's what I'm asking about. Like, not
Someone needs to evaluate it using the forms that we provide, the town provides. That's our evaluation process. They need to evaluate it and answer a whole bunch of questions. And give us a lot of, they have to produce a lot of information. This is what people on the land trust spend a lot of time on before it comes to us, right? Somebody has to do that.
So somebody has to
And then,
take the land in trust. We can't, as board, we can't buy it.
well, we
Well,
could
that's not
suggest
what I
that the
meant.
town buy it
No,
and
I'm
put
just
an
talking about
easement on it.
But we could ask,
I'm talking about the evaluation process.
well,
Whether we look-
what I'm suggesting is that if such land offer comes to us, we would have to, I think, refer it to the town or the land trust or both. If somebody says, I just want to make sure Scarborough has it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if it goes to the town, I certainly would hope that the council would ask us to do the evaluation before they purchased. So it would have been helpful for Alger Hall if the town had asked us for an
I
evaluation.
believe based on
That's
the
it.
last conversation, that would be the new norm regardless, and I would assume that if somebody came here right now and walked through the door, no one had a meeting, and said, what's the process? I would direct them right to Tom's office. Tom would then assign a staffer, depending on what it is, to bring this back to you, I would assume. And I think based on conversations and, regarding the process, and I would assume, let's say someone said, oh, we want this parcel, and for easy conversation, it was half conservation, half potential rec. Then Tom would tell me to look at it and reach out to Andrew and bring the forms through this process to run through the whole thing. Because somebody eventually has to take ownership of it, which would be the town or another group. So, again, you guys are very good about staying out of that lane of advocacy. You've just used your tool, so,
It's not our role.
right. That's what I mean, so you've done good with that, so I think that's why it would go to there, pass down, and if it was a rec thing, I would take my liaison hat off and put my department head hat on and present.
But furthermore, financially, there's not a benefit to the town of owning conservation land. Makes no sense, because it, can affect tax structures. It's better for the land trust or an organization like that. So it really doesn't make any sense for the town to start conserving land. And that's one of the reasons they haven't done it over time.
Well, that's an
Once you
education,
conserve
that's
it,
an
you have to
education
take care of
piece
it.
in and of itself, Doug. That's an education piece that, you know, the town's borrowing power or the towns, they shouldn't be in the business of owning conservation land.
No,
But there are people
But our
who
finance-
think,
the
why
finance-
not? And I think that's an education piece.
You know,
I want to do a time check that's 11:05, so I don't want to stop this conversation, but I would like to make sure that we schedule our meetings. This is the last scheduled meeting, and we can circle back. I just want to make sure we get through that because it is 11:05. So we have to schedule our 2025 quarterly meetings. And I will also invite the Scarborough Land Trust, as they're the only, or anyone who has, I'd like to invite the public. If they have a potential application, that we also get that on the schedule, so that it's not, you know, we schedule an April meeting, but there's going to be an application sooner than that.
Well, let me ask, since the land trust is here, is it something that would come before us by December 31st?
So we are working on a project that I'm hoping to be able to bring in December to this board. But I don't have a definite on it. I'm still trying to gather all the necessary items before I can bring it to you all. So I don't know how flexible you all are of potentially scheduling a meeting in December, and then, you know, like if you didn't have anything else on the agenda, you know, you could put up a pencil in a possible meeting, and then if I can't bring it to you because we haven't gotten all the information yet, you could cancel it or not fully schedule it.
Well, we also need to ask Micah to do the
Yeah, I
GIS
don't,
evaluation.
no offense to Scott, I don't like, and again, I'm not gonna be as you do everyone. I don't like the idea of potentially holding a meeting and doing all the public things that we need to do to get it on the calendar and cancel and then cancel it, because it's just, I was driving to an 80 trying to set up Zooms and meetings and just get it off the website because they're like, cancel, like it's too hard to reschedule. So,
Unless it's particularly time sensitive, I would advocate for January, just because it's the holiday season and we know it takes at least 2 weeks for the GIS evaluation. So realistically, I don't know if December's.
Furthermore, I question what, 4 meetings is, I realize that's our mandated thing, but I think that's silly, given.
We have a lot to do. Well, that's the other thing.
If
So
we're gonna do this stuff, first of all, I don't even think we can do everything we talked about today. Although it's good to try. I mean, the council can never accomplish everything they're trying to accomplish. So, it's just the way it is. So, but it's good to do that because you're always, moving ahead. I think we're looking at, I was gonna say something, then I said, oh, no, you raised the point, we don't want to cancel meetings.
Well, I think you guys-
Because I'd rather have us schedule more meetings. Cancel them if we don't even do it, I don't think that's going to happen. So,
I don't think it's.
8 to 10 meetings is probably, if we can do it, it's probably a good idea.
I think you guys should be thinking about working with Karen and changing your charge to say, instead of saying quarterly, bi-monthly. And then
I
add,
think we could do that. I think we have the authority to do that, because I think the quarterly is at least.
That's just the
To make
mandate.
sure that.
We can add it.
yeah, but I mean, as far as just getting your and then add, if you need January, February, and March, you add February, knowing Scott's bringing you something in January and it's time sensitive, you add that one in between.
I think we have a lot to
And
do.
you did that a couple times this year. You got a lot to do.
So this is not an official vote. Are bi-monthly, monthly, what's the temperature for folks with their current commitments and
I would vote for bi-month.
Bi-monthly?
so
That means every other month.
every other month, yes.
It's fun, then.
Okay, so do we want to try to set up something like, do we want to set specific dates or is it Thursdays at 10, the first Thursday of the month for every other month? I mean, how are we feeling?
I find that helpful.
I do too.
It's, it's much easier, I think, if it's a regularly scheduled.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that's the date, I just was throwing it out there, it's today's Thursday. So do we want to start in December or January? January, okay. Do folks have their calendars?
I'm perfectly comfortable meeting in December. I'm not sure that, it didn't sound like, Scott, and you can jump in if I'm speaking out of place. Didn't sound like we had a year-end deadline needed that, so and December's a crazy month for everybody, so.
This is the second.
Scott, would it affect your process if it happened in January, our meeting happened in January rather than December?
So maybe we're going to second.
I think we can work with that. What I was under the impression is that you guys needed a certain number of weeks to post meetings, have micro review, and that it wouldn't take, it's not like you have to start that process tomorrow, right? In order to get it on to next month's meeting. It's usually like a 2-week process.
We need to, once an application is received, we typically request a 2-week turnaround
Right.
from Micah, but then
And Mike
we as,
acknowledges whether he can.
and then he acknowledges whether he can, and then we as a board have to have advance time to review that analysis. And we kind of check it. We check the scoring because there have been
But we don't have to do that in full meeting.
I like to do in advance so that we come with ideas.
As long as
and-
we have it.
Yeah.
So what I was suggesting, maybe I was unclear, is that since you guys weren't planning a meeting in December, you would agree on a time in December that would work, and then if I don't have anything in a week or two for you, then you just don't schedule. But I'm also okay with just waiting until January. That makes it easier for you guys.
And I'm just saying from the staff standpoint, if you tell us in 2 weeks, then you gotta get it to me in 2 weeks. And then I gotta give Mike 2 weeks, and now it's December 15th.
I'm just worried about that.
Okay.
I just think if it was any other month besides holiday, leading up to Christmas,
We're losing Todd, it's Christmas, it's the holidays.
I don't
It's-
even know Micah's schedule. Again, his
Yeah.
request was 2-week minimum.
Yeah.
But check with him.
So if we did the second Thursday in January, it'd be January 9th. So I don't think we lose that much time if it was a January 9th meeting.
And if you have all your stuff done and they can review it ahead of time, they might be able to take action on the 9th
Yes.
versus have a second meeting.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Second Thursday, does that work? Second Thursday every
Second
other month.
Thursday at 10 every other month. Then I have to look at those dates, but that would mean the first one would be January 9th.
Wait, isn't it 8?
No,
I'm looking at.
Are you 2024?
I don't know, maybe. That's what I was trying to figure out.
This way also we can get the meeting
Oh,
rooms
next
scheduled.
March 13th,
That's weird.
May 8th,
March.
I'm sorry, that was January what?
January 9th.
10 a.m.?
At 10 a.m.
And you got March 13th. Again, if you're staying with the second.
This is my last meeting.
Do we know how that, you would stay on until the vacancies filled?
I don't think they saw it.
Is that?
I don't think.
I'm looking
it's
at
on the-
Karen, I'm
done.
sorry.
Well, I don't think we're gonna be restaffing at the beginning of like January 1st. That's part of the problem. But you know you're not renewing. I don't know.
Can't renew
She can't renew?
She's
termed
She
out.
did, she's termed out 3
because of the
terms.
shoot rule.
Oh, is that a shoot rule? Is that what we're calling it, the shoot rule?
One term for it. I can see, I know we have a bunch of applications and good applications coming, but I don't know if we would have someone new appointed.
Right, for January 9th.
I know.
Yeah, I think that clarity would be helpful. It's heartening we have a lot of good applications, but there are some logistics, especially if there would be an application. And so that was on one of the additional agenda items was how do we start to preserve the knowledge? This board is, I think, is unique because of its charge and the depth of knowledge. And so how do we begin to, like, someone can't join in January and be ready to vote on the project.
Well, but they're going to. From just linking back to our earlier conversation, I was wondering if we need, and I'm not talking about a big document, but some kind of short implementation handbook that,
Yes.
that kind of lays out our processes.
There's so
If
much
this-
information there though.
I know, but
Just
just
something.
Just simplify it. I know it can get very complicated.
Yeah, there is on page, one of the appendixes.
Oh, we can get back to that, but March 8th, May 8th, sorry, let's just get
So
all
is this
the
gonna be the first or the second second Thursday of the month?
second
Okay.
Thursday of the month. So right now,
May 8th, July 10th.
Noah, you were reapplying, your term is up too.
Yes, I already notified.
You already did.
September 11th and November 13th. Those are the second Thursdays.
and do folks prefer town hall or public safety? Because I know we haven't,
Doesn't matter.
okay, doesn't matter. I know there were some preferences not to have a community service building because of the heat situation, the temperature situation.
Whatever.
Okay, so wherever we get. January 9th, May 13th, March 13th, May 8th, July 10th, September 11th, and November 13th. Okay, all right. So we have the meetings. And I've lost track of where.
Sorry, I just took us in the.
Yes, so that's
Because-
the implementation handbook.
Just because of bringing somebody new on.
Yes, because we do have this, but you've never been able to get a copy of it, so it's not even.
Oh, I didn't even know we had.
So, enough? Oh, I don't think that's enough.
You don't think that's enough
No, I think it needs to be a little bit more
detail?
detailed. But it's a good start. It's a good start to the framework. Completely. Okay, so we did scheduling the 2025 meetings. We're gonna meet bi-monthly. We will have a temporary staff liaison. So this is
So,
for the group,
just
what
to-
is the top priority to start the year?
Just to, I know we want to move on, but I'm still unclear about the language of the term limit.
Oh, well,
Since
yeah,
Karen's here.
Yes.
My term is done in 2026, but the wording was confusing to me. I have been here more than 3 terms, and the wording is that you can't serve another term. But I'm not clear about whether that means being reappointed to another term or if I'm done on December 31st.
I think it's reappointed to another term, so like it would be very disruptive to like interrupt the term that you're filling right now, I think, to replace it. So, and my interpretation of what we've done is you fill out that last term and then we would establish that you've timed out.
So it'd be December 31st,
2026.
26.
Yep, so you
26,
still have 2
yeah.
more years.
And Doug and,
I'm done next January.
Yep. you got
I
2
don't
people
know
on.
what I'm
Yep,
next
you're
one, January?
Yeah, December. You're
Oh,
done in
next
December. Yep.
2025.
So Doug and Suzanne are out.
And it's for 1 year.
Correct.
What's 1 year?
You have to time out for 1 year and then you can.
Oh,
It's not like you're done forever is what I mean.
Oh, yes, it is.
That's what I said. I said, once you go, I don't know if you're ever coming back. I mean, depends on,
Tell Bill Donovan that.
things
That's right.
change. What's that? Yeah, tell Bill Donovan, that's right. He took more than a year.
So it's 3 years?
I think they're all 3-year terms. I think we're all 3-year terms on this board.
So there wouldn't be an opening. I mean, the other thing that we have never had as an alternate, like planning board has had, and what if we have somebody who's not attending any meetings like we've had in the past? But it's completely filled, but they're not attending meetings or whatever. That's something we might want to consider too.
Well, that's a case of, when it's time to renew, if they, to talk to them before they decide they want to renew their application and suggest, and that's the role of the chair, suggest that's not a good idea. In other words, if you cannot,
I know, but 3 years, we went with one person that was.
We've
not-
removed someone this year who was not attending.
There is the language that if you're not attending a meeting.
If
you
it's a,
can
if it's
do
a very
something.
active committee and someone is not showing up and we have a lot of interested residents, we just didn't recently.
Okay.
Because it's not fair, it's, especially with this board. So if you didn't have someone coming from council, we got to take action to fill that out.
I do like the
That's good.
idea.
That's great. And I think that's the answer right there.
Yeah.
But that's-
But I do like the idea when you're considering, this board and the role, especially with this new policy. They want to think about adding alternates. Just because we've had times where someone hasn't been able to be here and land trust has brought an action like, okay, do we have enough people to do it, where we have it on most boards that somebody can fill in.
Yeah, literally all the other boards have alternates.
well,
yeah,
that-
they really?
this board was set up without them, and since it's the town council that set it up,
Right.
if the town council, or if we think it's a good
We can make
idea
a
and ask the town
suggestion.
council, then the town council could decide to change the composition
Yeah.
by adding,
I think that would be a good
Alternate.
recommendation.
I think if you're gonna, I think you should recommend it all at once. So if you want to change your meeting schedule, that has to actually, that's in our
That's in
ordinance
it,
right
yeah.
now. I think it should be, you should change that and then
That's
make it alternates as well.
to,
Two, we want
Two
two.
alternates, like every other board.
And that keeps your quorum alive, and it's more people educated.
So I'm gonna recommend to town council, does that need to be formal? We should probably vote on that. That we as a board are gonna recommend to town council 2 alternates and, changing our chartered meetings from quarterly to bi-monthly.
second,
Just did, but
Why-
I
Discussion.
know, but
Why does the charter need to change?
that's what I'm asking.
It actually says
It
it.
says four, it says four
It
means.
says
four,
at
but it's
least.
Minimum,
Yeah,
right?
it says minimum.
It don't change, it's not.
Oh, okay.
It says minimum quarterly.
Yeah, it says minimum quarterly, it doesn't say how many times we have to meet.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait,
but it would be helpful for an applicant to be clear
Clear.
on the meeting. And usually applicants take a look at what the guidelines say and say, oh, quarterly, I can do that. I mean, because that would be the assumption. And if instead,
Quarterly.
I don't have any problem.
Can I just want clarification on the term, just because I just thought of this? If somebody, and it doesn't affect this board because we don't have them yet, if you appointed me as an alternate, does that start my term limits?
I believe so.
I would be careful of that because an alternate doesn't vote. I mean, basically, on the planning board, an alternate is not, does not get involved, let's say, in the election of officers.
All the other boards, they do,
so-
if the seat's not there.
So if the alternate is promoted to a voting member only if there's not a quorum.
Only reason why I bring it up is that
Yeah.
for a board like this that's been very succinct for a lot of years, and I was sitting as an alternate, and I never get to.
Well, so now
Well,
every
they
year we're gonna have
participate.
openings, and what's gonna happen with the openings is I would imagine we're gonna shift, so then.
Put
Well,
alternates,
Oh, that's
that's
a
the
good-
other,
yes.
that's
The
another
alternates
reason why
goes
we're not
out.
gonna be.
And they come,
That-
and that
but-
doesn't always
but-
happen,
but
that,
once
that
in a
always
while.
happens as well.
yeah, because that
I'm done.
needs to be thought about very carefully, that it should not necessarily be automatic.
And
If
it's not,
somebody-
It's not, no, we have, we've had.
Right,
some-
so,
it's not, we just, again,
It's like a
another board
tryout.
did not follow
Yeah,
that
it's a
process.
tryout.
We don't always do it.
It's not all, so what you're saying is you don't always move the alternate to the?
We do not.
No,
correct.
I think the common practice is, but typically, I would, especially with the technical board like this, you would check in with the chair and staff and say,
Well, again, if somebody hasn't been showing up, or, you're not gonna give them more power not to use it. So I think it's more of a check.
Well, I'm just thinking about when people with institutional knowledge get booted, that they'll be waiting 3 years or 4 years to get back on if you push in the
Well, they
alternates.
can share their knowledge, they just don't
You
have.
could
the
apply to
full
be an
name.
alternate.
And so I
You
think
could
that's,
apply to be an alternate.
So are we ready to vote on recommending 2 alternates and changing our charter to bi-monthly?
All those in favor?
I guess I'm still a little bit confused about the changing the charter and the timing. If the charter says, it seems like the charter is flexible in the timing.
Well, it's just, well, no, you're doing it for 2 reasons. One, if I'm a new member applying, I want to know that I have to meet 6 times. And in a lot of the committee handbooks, it says if you don't miss a couple meetings, well, the charter says only 4 and I only went to 3, so really I only missed 1 mandatory meeting, so you can't kick me off.
Right, but what if I
Which
have
is otherwise 25% of the time.
next year I run an evil coup and I kick Jessica out of her position because I want all the power.
So much power.
And I say, no, we're meeting quarterly, starting in January.
This committee's got to vote.
Right, but I've got all the power.
He's got all the power.
You have the power to make the suggestion, but the committee has the vote to approve your power. You have false
You're
power.
gonna have to take over the council too. They have the ultimate.
I guess my concern is that what if our schedule is changing for next year, if every time we revisit the schedule and then we have to have a charter change for the schedule?
no, actually, I don't think this is normal to change the charter at all. I actually feel like this is very responsive to the 6 million that you guys just got.
Okay.
So I think we're going not only to the, applicants coming forward, they now know, Scarborough Land Trust, we meet every other month. There's a guaranteed deadline of when we're meeting, then the residents say, oh, we have this committee managing the 6 million, they meet
When
every
is
other
it?
month,
Yeah.
and it's set in stone.
Okay.
We don't actually, we've been trying to change some of the charters with the committees here and there, but it's not very common. But there's definitely a discrepancy with this one, as opposed to literally all the
It
other
seemed
committees.
like there was one other item that we had
Well,
talked about
hey,
a long time ago.
Plus the other thing, I think that you guys, because it's not me anymore, should take a look at, and that is, now that there's a schedule for next year, a real schedule for next year, you should also put as part of the schedule, doesn't have to be part of the charter change, but part of the schedule, the time when material
Yes.
must be presented.
I think that's
So
part of
that
the
anybody who wants to
process
come
decision.
forward knows I have to have my stuff in by this date, so that we can make
Right,
sure.
well, now you get your dates, you can have
Yeah,
your,
get
you
the
can go
dates.
backwards.
So for example, 3 weeks before the meeting, you must submit your application, whatever it is. We as a board have to set that deadline, but now it will be
Then Micah
consistent.
takes 2 weeks to look at it, and the board has got 1 week
Yes,
to do their own work, although they will have been able to look at it for 3 weeks, but they'll have Micah's work in front of them.
I think that transparency and consistency is really important. Again, because we now have $6.5 million.
Well, you
That
can
we're
also
steering.
go back to your initial thing about setting, improving your educational stuff. You could have follow-ups. You could assign somebody that says, hey, reach out to Jessica, holy smokes, I can see her face, Allison, and put a little blurb in the newspaper, and the newsletter, hey, this is the process for this parcel that was brought before us. There's ways to increase your transparency and your education.
Well, and it goes up on with the planning board, once we have the agenda up.
Yep.
All of the material is there as well, so people can take a look at applications. Yeah, and if they know that the application material will be available for scrutiny by the public 1 week before, as long as the meeting notice of 2 weeks is taken care of, then that allows people to look. Now, the chances that people will look of I think we turned out. But anyhow, that sort of precision really creates the transparency because people know that they can take a look. People know that if they've got a question about an application, it can be answered by XYZ.
So I think I'd like to take another vote on the two recommendations for 2 alternates and changing the charge to bi-monthly because we had a little bit more discussion. So all those in favor? 1, 2, everybody, okay.
Can I just ask, I mean, I know the planning board obviously has 2 alternates, but do all of their committees have 2 or 1?
Conservation Commission has 2.
I think every committee has 2. I think the Shellfish Commission might be all voting. I don't know one, but I mean, every other committee has 2 alternates.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so we are at 11:30 and I know we didn't get to a lot of our items. Are there items that you would like to see on the January agenda? Recognize the first agenda item would be any applications that we have at that time.
I'd like to do some work before January. I'll do some work on pulling together the educational, not educational, the transition documents, which are also educational. And, a rough outline, just so that people understand what I'm thinking about, is go back to the original growth and services recommendation. Where'd that come from and what did it say? Now, I'm not talking about pages and pages of stuff. I'm talking about summarizing, but with enough information that people really understand what happened. This kind of thing would have been valuable if we went through this past referendum. Because so many people are really confused about what the land bond was. So growth and services recommendation, the creation of the land bond, the land fund, and the creation of the idea of land purchase bonding, the Parks and Conservation Land Board charge and responsibilities, the evaluation process, the various referenda that we've had on bonds, for bonding, the actual bonding history and the actual purchases using the bond town money, using town money, not just bonding. Does this sound reasonable?
I think that would be very helpful.
Some stuff there, and then obviously this committee can tear it apart, that's not a problem, but we'll have something to work with.
Excellent.
So that's the agenda.
Yeah, I think, and that is January.
That is January. Reviewing something new and then that document.
We'll also have the open space plan.
Yeah.
So, but so I would like to add, we will see that in advance, so I think that should be a discussion item, but because we will get it in, we will get a draft as a board. Okay. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor? Do we have any, what do we have left? Sugar.
Yes, there's sugar left.
For donuts.
You are very welcome.